record for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, depending on how much voice I have, that kind of a thing, right?
Right.
And then I just been doing it for fun. And then right after you do it, like I'm talking like 2 minutes after you've done it, the video is available, and then you can post the video like the Facebook kind of a thing. So
Oh, I
so
see.
that's kind of what I've been doing. So, and for me, it's not like I'm not worried about the revenue part, but for like a touring band, uh, that's their revenue, right? If they can't tour, they can't make money, right? So
Yeah. I really feel for uh, a lot of the bands who that's all they do. I've kind of not really stepped up to doing all that stuff because I want to let them do it because I have half the year where I'm making a really solid, stable income, you
right,
know, and so I have savings and stuff like that, that others, some of these guys were caught in the middle of a tour,
right, yeah,
in their truck in the middle of a tour. All of a sudden, all their gigs are gone.
right,
It's
exactly.
like, I really feel for the people in that situation, or just like in the middle of a tour like that. Without that tour money, they're dead in the water, and you know,
Yeah,
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 I really feel for the people who are going through that stuff. It's that's, but then again, my guiding season might be out the window too. So
well,
we don't we don't know yet. Depends on how long the border is closed, right? Because
yes,
all my clients are from the U.S. So
right, yeah,
if
exactly.
if the border stays closed all summer, well, then you know, then we'll see.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Anyways, but something like this Twitch thing, I think that'd be something for a lot of,
Yeah, it
for me,
sounds really
it's
interesting.
just an expression thing, like
Yeah,
just to have
yeah,
fun doing it. But
yeah.
for somebody who makes their money off of making music, and there's some actually there's if you just go to Twitch dot or Twitch dash TV and just browse, so and you just browse live channels, you're going to see all kinds. There's people that have a studio like yours and 5 guitars and that kind of a thing. There's usually only 2 people playing, but they've got all the gear. And then there's a guy that just had his like accordion. He's sitting in a chair playing his accordion, right? And then
Now,
there's me. I think I'm the only one who just likes singing, but
well, that's your thing, man.
that's my thing.
That's your
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
I've not seen that, but I will check it out. It
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And her book, by the way, it's called Twitch for Musicians. And she's got like videos and she'll give you the first couple of chapters of her book to tell you how it works and that. But mostly I found it just like dicking around with it. It was actually pretty easy to make it work.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, it wasn't that
Well,
hard at all. Yeah.
that's good. That's it. That's interesting stuff.
Yeah. Juno, our friend Juno, he comes on
Yeah.
every once in a while and gives me some encouragement. And yeah, so
Oh,
that's always
nice.
fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's great.
speaking of music, you and I have some, I think, some pretty common interests in music. I think
Oh,
our musical tastes align somewhat, right?
yeah. I would agree. Yeah, for sure.
Great. I know people don't know this, but I'll tell them. I went first met Paul. I went and did some recording at his house, at his little studio at his house. And the first song I recorded, he said, "I recorded that song."
Yeah, that's right. I don't remember which one it was now. Which was the
Delbert,
first one? Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah,
yeah, Delbert,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, the song,
that-
and I sang it, and you said, "Oh man, I recorded that one." So
yeah.
yeah,
I
cool.
played that in band for 10 years or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a fun song. It's a fun
yeah.
song.
I might
Yeah,
have to bring it back. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
good.
So now, Texas Flood, obviously, you're Stevie Ray Vaughan inspired, right?
Yeah, yeah. We began as a actual tribute band. That's when it started. Was that for the first 5 years about, and we are going to be doing that again. In fact, we had shows booked in the U.S. and stuff when this all happens.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some management in Vancouver, and we're going to be doing some of those tribute shows again because I got away from it after 5 years. I just decided to, do more of my own songs and stuff I wanted to do, and then it ended up, I always played a good bunch of his music at every show, but we're going to actually do the whole tribute again, starting whenever live music starts up again.
Yeah.
Whatever
Well,
that.
Stevie Ray
Yeah.
Vaughan never gets old, right?
I wouldn't think so. Not for the people who are big fans. I
Yeah,
mean, I've run into many younger people who don't know who he is, but uh,
right.
everyone my age seems to know who he is. And
Exactly.
you know, he was his first really big album sales were in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but he when he put out his first record, it just sold like gangbusters in Canada right out of the gate, which is kind of an interesting little fact. I know that I got it. I pre-ordered it before it even came out from word of mouth and hearing him on the radio playing on the David Bowie album. I just had to know who the guitar player was. on, so I got the David Bowie album and asked the guy at the record store, you know, who is this guy, this Stevie Ray Vaughan guy? And he says, oh, he's a guy from Texas. He has his own record coming out in a couple months. And I said, well, I'll pay for it right now. I'll pre-order it. And so I had that one the day it hit the shelves, which is interesting, you know.
and
I had to know
what was the first album of Stevie Ray Vaughan called?
it's called Texas Flood.
Oh,
It's the,
of course.
yeah, that's the first album he did. And yeah, I had to know. And I had, interestingly enough, I was kind of playing a similar style already because when I was 16 years old, my family went on a motorhome trip and we drove all the way down to the Florida Keys from Vancouver and then across the southern states to Los Angeles and then back up to Vancouver. So we were gone for a month and we spent New Year's Eve just very close to Austin, Texas, in a little place called Junction, Texas. And there's a dance there. And my folks parked the motorhome outside the dance and they went in and then they came back out. I was 16, I believe. This was in, I guess that would have been 78. And they said, hey, they said you can come in. And I was already playing. I was already playing guitar pretty well for a 16-year-old. But I, of course, was into the Beatles and Stones and, all, you know, just the rock and roll of the day. And they said you can come in and watch. And so I got to go in and sit beside the stage. And these guys are playing like Texas blues rock kind of stuff. And the guitar player was just awesome. And he started filling me in on, well, you should listen to Freddie King and Albert King and BB King. If you want to know where rock and roll came from, that's who you should listen to if you're a guitar player. So immediately upon going home, I did that. And so it was already an influence I'd been exploring for a couple of years before I heard Stevie. And that's probably why it struck me so hard that it was the same way this other guy played, like very similar, you know, to the way this guy who I heard at that dance. And also on that same trip, I got to go into the bars in New Orleans and watch bands as well. And they just let me sit there, you know, even though I was only 16. Yeah, you can sit there and watch the band, you know, and just don't walk around, don't drink. And so I did that for a night in a club in New Orleans too. And so it was a huge awakening to the blues. And, you know, I still loved rock and roll just as much. It was just like a big growing thing at a really good age for it. You know, it just opened my eyes to other, you know, a whole different world of music, you know.
No
and
shit. That was
yeah.
quite a great trip you went on, eh? A
Oh
month
yeah.
around. Wow.
Yeah, we had been down to California a couple times before that in a motorhome with the two whole families, you know, like that's the kind of trips we went on. But those weren't the same, didn't have the same jarring influence of difference of culture than that one was, you know, just like, you know, really something, you know, just opened my. So then when I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan, I said, that's that music, that's that guitar playing. So it was like, it was just right there. Yeah, that's how you're gonna play. You know, that's just how it works. You know,
yeah.
Whatever hits you in the heart the most is, you know, is kind of gonna what you stay with.
Yeah,
it's so long ago now. I don't feel all that different.
Few more gray hairs, but other than that,
a little more aches and pains, but still love the same stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny how something music just kind of speaks to you. For me, the lyrics are probably the most important part. I love the lyrics. The lyrics are what kind of make it for me. And but like for you as a guitar player, maybe not. Maybe it's just guitar solos that are embedded in songs that are most important for you, eh?
Well, you know, I've talked about with my wife about this because she's really, really focused on lyrics, and I honestly, I never really have been. Uh, I love really good singing, and I love how they shape the words and how the words fit the music. But it's probably honestly, you know, the groove and the whole thing of the song has always been first for me, and then lyrics. You know, I like them if I want them to be good, but they're not, certainly not. Even when I'm doing my writing for myself, everything's almost done before the lyrics. Like the the pattern of them is done, but they might go through like 15 incarnations before I go, oh yeah, these will work. You know, it's a funny. It's more like the singing is more like, I guess I think of it more like instrument, you know, and maybe that's from being a player
that the,
first.
that the singing is just another instrument is kind of what that
It's
you've got to mix in.
in a way, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I will work on lyrics really hard to, you know, as a writer to make sure they're cool. They're not, you know, or I think they're cool. They're not, you know, I read a lot, so I like the written word. It's just in music, it always seems to be the last thing I'm really focusing on. It's just it's a funny thing that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's and I think that's just like I mean that's the beauty. That's one of the thousand ways, right? You can like music
Yeah.
more for the guitars than anything else, and I can like music more for the for the vocalization and the lyrics than anything else, right? So
Absolutely. And
yeah,
I mean, I love hearing a good singer. I mean, there's nothing like it, you know. But is it the words or the delivery? You know, for me, I'm not sure. You know,
yeah, yeah.
I know who my favorite lyricists are. You know, and they're two opposite ends of the spectrum. It would be Neil Young and Keith Richards. You
Oh,
know,
okay, yeah.
Keith
Those are
wrote
quite
Keith wrote almost all the lyrics for the Stones songs, and I don't know, a lot of people don't realize that, but he's written, you know, from what I understand, more than 70 or 80% of the lyrics. So
I did not know that, really.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
and his lyrics are the lyrics to Jumpin' Jack Flash are pretty cool. You know, uh, and then Neil Young. What can you say about Neil Young? I mean, it's songwriting genius.
Yes.
And I remember I wasn't a Neil Young fan really until I saw him live because I didn't think I liked his singing, and I've heard that from other people, you know, that his voice isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I saw him live and it was just like, oh my God, this guy's so magical. And then I became like a huge fan after one time of seeing him live. That was it. It
Really?
was,
So
yeah.
even though most that you would a lot of people would evaluate he's like great songwriter, but maybe not that great a singer, but his
I,
live is just a whole different thing, right?
I've you know I've heard people say that. I think he's an incredible singer now, but
Yeah,
I think I had to see that live to get it,
got it.
or
Yeah.
maybe I just didn't listen carefully or hard enough in the first place, and then I got slapped in the face with it. So you know, it's sort of like Eric Clapton's guitar playing. You know, I've always loved Eric Clapton, but I thought Clapton's not as good as say as Stevie or someone or Hendrix. And then I've heard this said by other people, and then you see him live, and it's just like how how it comes across live is like holy cow, like he makes you feel it, you know. So
Mm, yeah.
I know when I first saw him, he had a second guitarist in his band who it's Doyle Bramall the second, who I think is one of the best blues guitar players of the modern era by far. And I was so looking forward to seeing him, and then all of a sudden Clapton kind of just totally kicked his butt in the live situation. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. You know, I didn't expect to be so moved by his playing. You know, and then we saw him again a couple of years later, and it was equally as phenomenal. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you never know until you you sit there and hear it right in your face, and
Yeah. And it's
and
like, and it's experience that one time that you had could have been an entirely different experience than the next night, the next show that they had, right?
it's possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's possible. But yeah, and the music, when music, the connection, the ability to find that wavelength between audience and artist deliverer, Clapton just really had that in spades, and you don't always fully get that through a record, you or on a video, or
Yes.
as compared to when you're there, and you feel the connection and what the guy can deliver, that magic, whatever that magic is. He just
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yes.
and
Yeah.
he's been around a while, so he
Yeah.
knows that. Neil Young too, man. He's something else live. He'll just stop you in your tracks.
Is that right? Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me, what was the best live performance that you ever performed? Tell me a show that you said, "Oh, that was like life changing." That show when we did it.
I do remember one particularly show that really changed my perception, or maybe my confidence in a. It was at the Yale Hotel in Vancouver, and it was just it was just a night where it was going well, and it just, everything seemed to be easy, and it was a busy night, but then there was a particular song where I thought, I'm not doing this. I'm not actually doing this. Like, this is like, I was separate from it, and it was a very intense middle of a big heavy solo, and I was just going, I'm not doing this. Like, I've been like taken over somehow.
You're just kind of watching yourself perform it, is what you're saying.
I was.
Yes.
Well, that's what made me stop and say that. Is like, I was watching what I was doing, and I was going, I'm not doing this. And then I looked out into the audience, and everyone was just still. Like, the bartender was looking at the stage. The waitress was sitting there with a tray looking at the stage. And I just said, this is what it is. This is happening right now, and it was like, it was very, very odd. And it was like, I said, this is it. This is what and I realized that's what a guy tries to strive. That's what you should be striving for as an artist. It's a moment a moment like that,
Yeah.
where an exchanged energy was just taking over the whole thing, and it was effortless. It was quite effortless. And I was like, what's going to happen when this is done? Like, they're going to lose it. And they did. The whole place lost it. And I immediately got hired for a full-time Monday night slot after that show.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it was just like, so that was, and so from then on, when it's always trying to get back there.
But that,
and it has happened a
yeah,
handful of times, but but if you're trying for that, you're always going to do good. If you're trying for that level of realness and just sharing and trying to convince the audience to buy into where their energy feeds you, and you're just giving it right back to them. That's my opinion of how that happens. And I know at a show where I've been taken in there, that's what I think, what I always strive to get back to as a performer anyway. And I mean, there's nothing like that. I mean, it's just like, and you can sometimes feel a show where it's right there, it might not fully get that obvious, but when everyone's on your side and that wave is rolling, it's the easiest and funnest thing in the world. I mean, really. Yeah.
wow, that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like that feeling, and I've had it when I worked with Doucette. There was a few shows that were just like that, just really just a super shared experience, and the energy rush is like, wow.
Did you say Doucette?
Yeah. I played
Gary
with
Doucette.
Yeah, I played with him for about 10 years.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, I was his guitar player, second guitar player, and yeah, we had some big shows. Another great show on a little bit different perspective was when my very first show with Doucette was a big outdoor festival with I think about 14,000 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it was very surreal to just be a couple rehearsals, go into this show, and we're doing the song "Mama Let 'Em Play," and I had
Yeah.
this, and I was like, I'm not in a cover band. You know, I'm not in a cover band doing this song. I'm actually in the band, which is, you know, a really trippy moment. You know, it's like, because
Right.
I remember air guitaring to that song when it came out as a teenager, you know, and trying
Yeah.
to learn it. And it was, you know, I could play it rhythmically at 16 years old, but I couldn't pick out the solo. It was too difficult for me at that point. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
but
Huh?
it's funny to be all of a sudden at this big show, everyone's going crazy, and you're actually in the band that with the guy who wrote the song. That was a cool moment.
I bet it was. I bet it was. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't copying somebody else's stuff or getting a spin on somebody else's stuff. You were doing the original. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I had been in bands playing that song for many years by that time. You know, we had done that song. You know, it had always been, you know, as a cover band. You know, it's just like. So anyway, that was a really cool moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry, for that. Yeah.
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 Hey, back to our friend from come on now. Our friend, the guitarist, your band, your hero,
Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray.
Yeah,
Why did I lose that? Stevie Ray, your band.
it happens.
Yeah. So what with Stevie Ray, like when did he die? How long ago did he die?
1990.
1990. Oh
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
August 26, 1990.
Wow. And there was a car crash or something or
Helicopter crash.
helicopter.
He had just played a concert with Eric Clapton and Robert Cray and Jimmy Bond and Buddy Guy, I think, was there too in Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. Yeah,
Whew.
yeah,
Wow.
and they
Yeah.
done it. It was Eric Clapton's helicopter, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he offered Stevie a seat in one of the helicopters instead of taking the bus ride back to Chicago because he had a real tight schedule or something, and he wanted to see his girlfriend and stuff, and had to get to New York in a hurry. And says, "Oh, there's a spare seat." And I think it might have been Clapton's seat, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, because Clapton's manager passed away as well in that
Oh,
helicopter.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was a very tragic thing. You know, I remember that day
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember as well, Leonard Skinner, like what was that in like the late 70s where a bunch of them died in a car crash, right? It was or a plane crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
78. Yeah.
78. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ronnie Van Zant was the lead singer for
Yes,
right, Leonard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually they were one of my very favorite bands. And I never did see them until last year. You know, like amazing. Till their final tour, so they said.
Yeah.
A year ago in March, I saw them, and it's Ronnie Van Zant's younger brother is the singer,
Right.
and has been since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the band was connected to the old band in some way or another. The guitar player was in the original Skinner as a drummer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and he became the guitar player for other bands and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was just phenomenal. It was just an excellent concert. They were so good. I mean, yeah. So I was glad I got to see them. You know.
No kidding. And you know what? I think like it's sad when they lost their life so young, but that probably even kind of memorialized their music more. You know what I'm saying?
I would say that does happen. You know, it happens faster if you look at it. If you look at, I mean, some careers, you know, peter out and never come back. I mean, big careers, but other big bands have had a period of disappearing and come back in the modern era. You know, like say Eagles, for instance, they had a downtime. I mean, really big bands. They had a downtime of over 10 years, I think, completely shut down, and came back really big, and bigger than ever. But
Yeah.
a band like Skinner, it's hard to say. They were so big at the time. Would it have ever slowed down, or would they have just stayed big like the Stones the whole time? It's so hard to say, but something like that happening, certainly. Or like Stevie, like a blues artist like Stevie Ray Vaughan, him dying really kept his name in, big for a long, long time.
You bet. You bet.
So many subsequent releases of unreleased material and stuff too. There's amazing how much they had in that vault, actually. Or Jimi Hendrix. Like there's one who, I mean, is still huge. It's so. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened. Maybe some of those careers would have just petered out.
Maybe.
Very hard to say.
I mean, that could have been, you don't know this, but that could have been their peak of their, abilities or their capacities or audience connection, whatever it was. And they could have been like on a downward thing, and they would have been miserable and had a shitty life. Like, maybe dying young was the best thing.
You never know. It's very hard to say. Yeah. Certainly kept their music. I mean, it's great that it did. It's great that their legacy goes on so long, like Jimi Hendrix or Janis Joplin. They're still talked about as much today as they were then, which is
no kidding.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, when did you say Stevie Ray died? 1990, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So 1990, so 30 years ago, and you still remember him, still have his music, even though he hasn't even been on the planet for 30 years. That's like incredible, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I hope people remember you 30 years after you die. I don't think they're going to remember me a week after. Oh, that guy. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, maybe a few of them will.
maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Glad to be still playing music myself.
Wow, and it's always been a passion of you. You said you were a pretty decent guitar player when you were 16, right? So you started before that. So
I started when I was about 10, and when I was 16, I was playing bass in a really good band. Already a professional working band. So they were a great band who needed a bass player, and there were so many guitar players around. I was just like, I can do it. Oh, okay, kid, we'll give you a try. And got the gig.
Nice.
Mom, I need a bass like now. Thanks, Mom. My parents were supportive, so that was great. They were.
Were they musicians? Was they musicians as well, Paul?
Well, they're very musically inclined. Mom sang. They weren't professional musicians, but both played instruments and sang. So yeah, definitely. But they were definitely supportive of it. They were, which is goes a long way instead of having to fight all the time. Especially when you're a teenager. It's
Well, they're pretty awesome parents though too, to take you on the whole tour around. I mean, it's for them as well as you, but then you got to go in to see some cool shows that you would never have seen otherwise. So
it's so funny how different things were. Then it's like, okay, you stay here and we'll see you later. My folks were gone the rest of the night, but they remembered where I was.
That's handy at least.
I was a pretty fairly cautious younger person, so they knew I wouldn't go take off or anything.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But things were different then, it was like, it's a little bit more of a wide open world back then. Sure, he can come in,
Exactly. Hey, the American Pie. What is the significance of American Pie?
Of the song?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it talks about the first big, I guess that was the first big death of musicians that ever happened, was Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly's plane crash. Apparently that's what that song is about.
Right. And I believe that what I was getting at, I guess, is I'm told, and I should have Googled this, but I didn't, but I'm told that American Pie was the name of Buddy Holly's plane. And that's why the song is called American Pie.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Hey, Google, what was the name of Buddy Holly's plane? And what's that?
Aircraft carrying Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and JP, the Big Bopper, Richardson crashed a few miles from Mason City Municipal Airport.
That doesn't help us. I thought it was. Thank you, Google, for nothing. Damn it. Anyways, I was told that that was the name of Buddy Holly's plane, and that's why the song ended up being called American Pie. So
is that right? I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Did you know Waylon Jennings was Buddy Holly's bass player the night that, and he was also in the flipping of the coins to see who got to go in the plane?
I did not know that. Waylon Jennings was played bass. Really? Wow.
He was in Buddy Holly's band as the bass player that night on that tour.
Wow.
So
that's freaky, eh?
And he was also in the coin flip to see who got to go on the airplane.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Strange, eh?
Yeah, it is. Just like you're talking about where the Eric Clapton's helicopter, where Stevie Ray was in it, where it should have been Eric Clapton's seat, right? So wow.
Says a little something about when your time's up, your time's up. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
That old thing. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm that when you're telling me about that moment where you were so connected with the audience and you had this kind of like where you were watching yourself play kind of a thing, right? And it was just like you were a witness to you playing, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to Juno the other day, and I was saying some songs that I sing like a lot, that I've sang like 200 or 300 times kind of a thing. I didn't even know how the song's going to end when I started. Like it just kind of, it goes and then it ends. Oh, well, that was kind of a fun ending, but it's not like I planned it, just like kind of how it went, right? So, yeah.
It's good. Yeah, sometimes it's just good to not let your brain get in the way of your art. You know, that's what I constantly tell myself anyway.
It makes good sense to me. I was back to that Twitch thing. This is not about me, but I'm yakking too much maybe. But back with that Twitch thing, one thing that I found is I just sing the songs from memory. And if I'm in the middle of a song and I start thinking about what I'm going to sing next, I invariably screw up the lyrics, right? I'll miss a word or miss a verse or something, right? If I start thinking about the next song. If I just stay with the song I'm at, everything's cool. And even if it takes me 90 seconds to take a breath, think about the next song I'm going to sing, totally fine. But if I start thinking while I'm singing the one song, I pooch the song. And I don't enjoy it as much. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what the point I was getting at.
Yeah.
We all do that. Yeah. Don't think. Just do.
Just do. Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Think when you're practicing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it's allowed. Yeah. So cool. Well,
it's great to be on here with you, man.
Well, yeah, it's fun. Yeah. So you want to regale us with any other tunes? Oh, we're like 6:14. We've been 45 minutes already there, man.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to cut her out pretty quick here, but.
Are you? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
All good.
Well, I always end this show where I sing a song. So so let's talk about a song that I might sing that you would find appealing, knowing your bluesy type bent.
You do a CCR one that I like.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. A Song for Everyone. Is that the one you're thinking?
Yeah, I like that.
All right, I'm gonna do that song, and then we'll wrap her up and call her good. And actually, I'm kind of doing it in the style of Mavis Staples. Staples. Oh man, I love Mavis Staples. She's incredible. Yeah, I hope that someday I can sing like Mavis Staples.
Mavis.
Amazing. All right, so here's a song written by John Fogerty, but performed in the way that Mavis Staples would do it, except she'd do it better.
You rock, buddy.
Met myself a county welfare line. I was strung out hung out on the line. I saw myself going down the war in June. All I want is to write myself a tune. Wrote a song for everyone, wrote a song for truth, wrote a song for everyone, and I couldn't even talk to you. And got myself arrested, wound me up in jail. A rich man bound to blow up, communication fail. If you see the answer, now's the time to say, all I want is to get you down and pray. Wrote a song for everyone, wrote a song for truth, wrote a song for everyone, and I couldn't even talk to you. I saw the people standing 1,000 years in chains, and people say it's different now. Lord, it's just the same. A pharaoh spin the message round and round the truth. They could have saved 1,000,000 people. How can I tell you? I wrote a song for everyone. I wrote a song for truth. I wrote a song for everyone. And I couldn't even talk to you. No, I couldn't even talk to you.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Nice job.
All right, thanks, man. So yeah, so thanks for doing this. And I check out that Twitch. If you get on there, I'll follow you and watch your stuff, man.
I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Okay, sounds cool. And if you want to follow me, it's Alan_acapellist. I think you'd figure it out, but
Okay.
all right.
Cool. I'll do that.
Okay, cool.
All right, man.
Hey, keep well.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan.
Okay,
Take care,
talk to you, Paul.
Yeah. Take care.
You too.